I always wanted to serve on a jury.
I'm really super excited to be here, so I really appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Creating this whole trial daddy.
I want to give a big shout out to the 13th Jury Podcast and Brandi.
Yeah, I applaud you guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
That every time you run into Phil Barber, you should reach for it.
And then I just looked to the jury, and it's sort of like, look.
I was in the eye of the storm, and you guys were watching the storm.
Hey, if your porter works, come pop in and say, hey, want some coffee?
You are a ray of sunshine, and I love what you've done with your YouTube channel.
Hello, people. Hello. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Happy hump day. Happy hump day. I don't think I'm gonna make it with these headphones today. Hold on. I've been working so much. And they are starting to hurt me because I am working too much. Let me change over to the pods. The pods. These aren't connecting. You know, get it together, Brandi. Get it together. Properties. There we go. All right. Swap it over. Hello. Good morning. Oh, God, I look rough today. Oh, that's okay. It's all right. This is why I like it when my camera's blurry. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Come in. Take a seat. It is jury duty day. Jury duty day. We have jury duty. Let me pull up let's see. I was trying to pull up some Karen Reed stuff. We have stuff to go over today. I left up the green screen because I finished the podcast episode yesterday. You can tell I haven't taken my medicine, can't you? You can tell. I finished the podcast episode yesterday after my interview with Law and Crime, and I was really excited because I finished like at a decent hour. Like it was not, I didn't stay up all night, which is great. So because of that, I got the podcast episode out. I finished a few things, and then my kid came over and we made frozen pizza, and it's still sitting on my stove. Like the rest of the pizza is still sitting on my stove. So I was like, I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, I could either clean my kitchen before I go live, or I could go for a nice long walk on the beach with Lucy. And guess which one I chose? Guess which one I chose? No regrets. No regrets on that. So the frozen pizza on the stove can wait. You get the green screen for another day. And actually, it's not the live view. This is just a picture of my view, but or picture of my windows. But it looks really pretty out there today. Did you see DUI guy got in this morning? No, I was looking at the YouTubes. Let me see. I was looking at the YouTubes earlier a little bit. Oh, yeah, he's inside. Interesting. We have, oh, goodness. Ted is in there as well. Where'd it go? So 7 minutes ago, Ted Daniel said, we are underway. Yannetti asked to speak at the podium. He says there are issues, including a serious one he needs to raise. Judge calls for recess to discuss with both sides before going on record. Uh-oh. Serious issues already? Serious issues already. Oh, dang. Not Siri. Go away. No, stop. Dang it. Stop. I said serious, and Siri thinks I'm talking to her. Commands aren't working. I don't know why. One more issue. Let's see. Tom CPU. We can watch it for a minute.
That's right now.
That got loud. He's a nice fella.
So they're discussing that. I don't know what that means, but we'll find out.
Serious issues he has to raise. Yannetti.
I love
With
their
the lawyer.
accents. The lawyer.
They went into recess. Both sides.
I know all top
Yeah.
good morning.
What's going on? Wait, is it televised? How?
Even though Dolly's out there minding his own business, the fact I know all top secrets good
This
morning.
is Tom CPU.
Even though Dolly's out there minding his own business, the fact is that he saw video footage
I don't know.
He has jury duty in Quincy.
We're back. Okay, he says we're back.
He's saying that
We're back. Judge asking to see both sides at sidebar. She says she doesn't have any motions in front of her. It appears defense wants to raise something, and that's being discussed privately now. It's always something with them. Always something with everybody in this trial. Error, one of them. So I've got my notifications on for him so that we can keep up with what's happening there. So we'll see. Off topic. Unmedicated Brandi. Off topic. I had on a sweatshirt that I bought at this little place, in Rosemary Beach down the road. And it says local on it. And it's green. And I had on my green screen. And you could only see from here up. And then the words local, it was floating, and it looked really funky, and I thought about just leaving it on, and then I was like, I'll have to explain it all day, so I took it off. But this is, hold on. I can't move my shoulder. Hold on, let's see if it does it. Oh, well, the lighting is different on this one. Hold on. It was, let me see. It was, oh yeah, see? So it was like this all day. It would have been like this all day. But anyway.
Does she eat chicken liver?
All right, thank you. Love you.
Love you.
Hey, take that other piece of pizza if you want it.
I don't. It's been sitting there all night, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. The kid came by. He brought Lucy some food. Okay. All right, let's see. So can I ask an honest question? How come everything that is posted on Twitter now has like 3 little floozies posting that their links and their nudes are in their bio? What has happened with that? Why is that? How do you make that not happen? I posted something about, I mean, like, I'm posting stuff about like murder trials and whatnot. I don't need your nudes in my bio, like, or in your bio or whatever they're saying. Like, when did that start and why is it so bad now? How come I can't post anything without at least 3 floozy posts? I don't know how to stop it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a floozy. If you want to be a floozy, that is 100% your, you know, your right. Free the floozies. But I don't want them in my stuff. Anywho. Okay. All right. So yeah, it's okay. It's not, it's awful. It's gotten so much worse. It got, yeah, about a month ago is when it got really worse. I don't like it. Okay. Anywho, unmedicated Brandi. All right, so I will keep up with our updates from Ted Daniel to see what is going on with that. I have the notifications on, so I'll get notifications when he tweets. So, free the floozies. I mean, I'm fine with it. Like, whoever wants to, you know, do your thing. But I just don't know how to make it not. As a Blue member, shouldn't you be able to block that? How? Who knows how to do that? I mean, I can block them. Set your privacies to exclude. Oh, how do you do that? That's a thing? Oh my gracious. This is why I need y'all in my life. How do you do that? Let's go. Let's block the floozies. Settings and privacy. Privacy center. Direct messages, privacy center. Let's see. Detail Junkie, thank you for the super chat. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. How do you... Does anybody know which one? Which button? Audience, media, no? Witchy poo. Whee! Woohoo! Happy 5 months! Happy 5 months! Plola's mom. No, I haven't had a chance to do anything else. I did the lift and tent thing, but no, I haven't been able to. I had like a gift card, so it was kind of like an exciting thing, but no, I haven't been able to go back. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Topics? No. Interest, explore search settings, your account, security. It would be privacy and safety, right? I don't know. I'll mess with it. I'll see if I can get somebody who knows what they're doing. Since I obviously don't. All right, so I'm going to keep Ted Daniel up. So today, we have some dumbbell to catch up on. There we go. And I think also, FYI, I think yesterday they ended up seating 4 jurors, I think, if I remember that right. So we should probably have trial started by next week. All right, are we ready to get this show on the road? I kept it paused where we left off yesterday after the break, so this should be there we go, and we'll keep it at 1.25 speed for now. We have a lot to catch. We have 2 days, well, a day and a half that we're catching up on, plus the stuff today, which is fine. It gives us stuff to this
You can go
gives
now.
us,
And then we'll have the jurors brought in, please.
that's loud. Gives us the stuff to watch while we're keeping an eye on jury selection too, but get in the car. Thank you. I was scrolling one day and got I don't know why. That happened to me yesterday, and it was not like I was posting about murder stuff, not like I don't
Ms.
care
Whaley, please be seated.
what you do with your nooks and crannies. I just don't want them on my timeline. Dr. Bullbutter, thank you.
All right, we concluded our mid-morning recess. At this time, then, Detective Wheeler's still on the stand, still under oath for his testimony, and this will be the time for cross-examination. When you get to any exhibits, we did discuss those in a sidebar, and Mr. Pryor, you can just move for admissions of any exhibits you have with this
That got
cross-examination. So,
And Judge, by stipulation of the parties are stipulating to Defense Exhibit 63, which represents the body cam of Officer Wheeler, which I don't think has been brought up yet.
all right, Exhibit 63 was clarified. It is not the same as what we previously said was 300B. So 63 is a new exhibit, and I understand the state's reviewed that. Is there any objection to Exhibit 63 being admitted? All right, Exhibit 63 is admitted then. Mr. Pryor, you can commence with your cross.
And Judge, at the appropriate time, I'll ask permission
They
to publish when I
stopped
get to that.
yesterday. They only
Very well.
streamed a little bit of it yesterday in the morning.
Officer Wheeler, I just want to clarify a couple of things if we could.
Yep.
I want to clarify your role from the morning when you arrived at 7 a.m. And your testimony is you did arrive at about 7 a.m. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And then what was your role immediately at 7 a.m.?
So I assisted in securing the front roadway that goes in front of the property, 1900 East, and then just assisting with any crowd control and traffic control at that intersection in that road.
Okay. Was there a significant crowd there at that point?
No, there had not been, right at 7.
Okay. And approximately how many officers were there at the time?
I can't testify to that.
Okay. You did say multiple agencies, right?
Correct.
Those agencies would include the FBI,
Yes.
the Rexburg Police Department,
Yes.
the Fremont County Police Department,
Sheriff's Office.
Sheriff's Office. Give me Sheriff's Office. Yes. Madison County as well.
I don't recall seeing any Madison County to my knowledge.
Okay. Any other citizens there other than law enforcement who were present that you recognized
Not on the property, no.
on the 9th?
Not on it. No.
Okay. Okay. Now, your duties at the time back on this date of 2020, what was your primary job other than this working on this case at that time?
I was a sergeant in patrol, so helping with scheduling, shift coverage.
So you would also go out on patrol and you would do that was part of your role, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you're and at the time, you were, this is where I'm a little confused. At the time, you were with the Rexburg Police Department or were you with a different agency?
Rexburg Police Department.
Okay. And as part of your duties, as part of your role as a sergeant, supervisory role, you had a vehicle with a camera inside, right?
Yes.
And the camera also videotaped outside, is that right?
Yes.
And as part of your role in a supervisory position with the Rexburg Police Department, you also carried a body cam, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And it was standard for you to carry a body cam as part of your role as in a supervisory position, is that right?
For patrol, yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, in describing Fremont County, that's a rural part of town out near Mr. Daybell's place, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, from 7 o'clock until what time did you leave your role as your supervisory position in overseeing the comings and goings of people going onto the property?
I would say when I was asked to make the traffic stop.
So, in other words, you were there at 7 a.m. And when you made the traffic stop, and again, what time was that?
I believe it was approximately 11:20 a.m.
Okay, so you were there for approximately 4 hours and 20 minutes. Your role was to supervise the outside of the property there, and obviously keep an eye on Mr. Daybell, right?
Correct.
Okay. And from 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock, again, tell me where Mr. Daybell's whereabouts were?
So initially, he got into his car, moved it to the west side of his home in the driveway. Later, took it over to the house kitty corner from his property, and then left southbound on 1900 East.
Okay, so from the time he parked the car in the driveway, how long did he sit in the driveway?
This would be an estimation, approximately an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, so and I'm not going to hold you to this. Yeah. 7 to 8 o'clock is fair for him being in the driveway.
He didn't exit the house till 7:30.
Okay, 7 to 8:30 in the driveway?
Approximately.
And then you saw him get in his car, and you said that he was the tail end was backed into the garage, right?
At his property, yes.
So the tail end of his vehicle was to the back where the garage is.
Correct.
And how far from the back of the garage was Mr. Daybell's bumper? Can you tell me?
I couldn't.
Was it close? Was it far?
To the garage?
Yeah.
The back bumper to the garage?
Yeah.
I know you could walk between it.
You could walk between it.
Yes.
So there wasn't 30 feet, but it was closer to just a couple of feet to get behind.
I can't testify to that.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's okay. So then approximately about 8:30, you saw the car exit, and he drove over to Emma's place. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Did he have any contact with law enforcement up until that time?
He had.
He had?
Yes.
Do you know who spoke with him?
I don't know everybody that spoke to him when they made contact inside the home originally.
So at some point, he was advised that they found remains on his property. When did that take place?
That didn't take place to my knowledge until he was stopped on the traffic stop.
Oh, okay. So you're...
Yes, thank you so much.
And this is where I'm
Thank
kind
you,
of
thank you.
confused. And please, educate me a little bit. So you said that Mr. Daybell was in Emma's house, his daughter's house, for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And while he was in the house, you didn't see him try to run away or flee or do anything like that, right?
Correct.
He didn't have any knowledge of anything going on out on his property other than there were multiple police officers out there, right?
I can't testify to that. I don't know what he could see from that home.
Well, as a patrol officer, you understand, and as a sergeant, you understand that when someone is stopped for a traffic ticket, there's a certain amount of anxiety with people when that happens to them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
And would you agree then that if there are 30 police officers, 30 plus police officers showing up at your property and looking all over your property outside, not inside, but outside, would that tend to think that maybe you're a little curious about what's going on your property?
It could.
And that doesn't mean that you're guilty of anything. That doesn't mean you have any knowledge. What that means is you're curious about why are there 30 officers wandering around my property? Wouldn't you agree with that?
That could be the case.
Okay, thank you.
So
then when Mr. Daybell left Emma's house, it's your testimony that he sped off. Is that what your testimony was?
I believe it appeared that he was speeding.
It appeared he was speeding. Okay. So he doesn't have any knowledge about what's going on the property at that point, right?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. He hasn't been told by anybody from the law enforcement agency that that they found something on his property. Is that fair?
Not that I was aware of.
Okay. And then in your testimony, and maybe he wasn't speeding, maybe he was going fast. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. So he wasn't racing off then, correct?
He accelerated quicker than.
Okay. And the speed limit on Salem Highway, and I've been on there a couple of times, is about 50 miles an hour. Starts slow, but when you get right on Salem Highway, it's a 50-mile-an-hour road.
Counsel's testifying.
Okay, I'll ask him, Judge Instead.
Hold on. Again, when there's an objection, I don't want an immediate argument back. I want a moment to rule, and that objection is overruled.
Okay.
So you can re-ask, and the officer can answer if he knows, knowing he's a law enforcement officer in the area.
Do you have knowledge of what
He
the
sure
speed
does
limit
argue.
is on Salem Highway in front of Mr. Daybell's house?
50 miles an hour.
Okay, so 50 miles an hour. So if you're pulling out of a driveway, and Emma's, where she used to live, is right on Salem Highway, right?
Correct.
So it wouldn't be unusual for someone to pull into traffic and start accelerating into going down the road, right?
No.
Okay. Now, I saw on the body cam, did you have a chance to go look over your body cam?
Yes.
Okay, and when did you review that?
A couple days ago. I don't
Okay,
remember the date.
now I saw on the body cam, and if we have to, we'll play this for everybody to, if you have trouble remembering something, but I saw on the body cam where you pull up and Mr. Daybell stopped in a vehicle and you get out of the vehicle. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And then you walked up to, it looked like there were about 4 or 5 officers there, right?
I know that there were 2 unmarked surveillance officers that were there with me at that time.
Okay, but Officer Homercio was there.
He arrived shortly after.
Officer Ball was there.
Arrived shortly after.
And as soon as they arrived and you walked up, there was a discussion to Mr. Daybell about where he was going. Do you remember that?
I don't recall that.
Did you have a discussion that he was going to visit somebody that morning?
I did not.
Did he have a discussion about having a meeting with his lawyer that morning?
Not to my
Remember that?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So you have no recollection of the discussion of anyone at that point pointing out to Mr. Daybell that he can't go see his lawyer, the lawyer can come to him?
I do recall overhearing a statement about his lawyer.
Okay, so now you remember the statement about the lawyer. So gleaming from that statement, you were to understand that Mr. Daybell was in the process of going to see his lawyer, right?
No.
Okay. Judge, I'm going to ask to publish the body cam that's been previously admitted into evidence, and I'll see if I can get this to go.
And that'll be Exhibit 63.
Yes, Your Honor.
There's a pretty dog coming through, I believe, with on the fall.
Statue moved. He does sit like a statue.
What do we got? Do we know what we have?
I don't know what they want.
Yeah, go step out here for us. They just asked us to stop you, so just come right here. They're going to come and chat with you, okay? Just stand right here. You don't have anything on you? No weapons, nothing?
Hey, Chad. We were so we're going to detain you for a minute. We'll figure out what we're going to do. Well, your friend can now come to you.
Okay. So it's difficult to hear Mr. Daybell.
He says
When he
okay
commented
so
to the
much.
officer, when the officer inquired, what he was doing. Do you now recall that?
I couldn't hear what
Okay.
he said.
But the officer's response to Mr. Daybell was, now your lawyer can come to see you. Did you recognize that?
Yes.
Which officer, by the way, said that?
I believe that was Lieutenant Ball.
Okay, so Lieutenant Ball is the one who said, your officer can come to you now. Is that fair?
Attorney.
Your lawyer can come to you now.
Yes.
Okay. So it appears that Mr. Daybell was in the process of going to see his lawyer that morning.
I can't testify to that.
Right. But according to Lieutenant Ball's comment, your lawyer can come to you now. It sort of presumes that, doesn't it?
I could presume that he was trying to call or wanted to talk to his attorney first.
Okay, and he was doing that in his car as he was driving away, right?
I don't know that.
Or he was doing that driving down the road instead of spending another hour in his house with Emma talking to his lawyer on the phone. He chose instead, well, I'll just get in the car and...
Objection, Your Honor. It's calling for speculation.
Sustained.
Real quick, so Ted Daniel said, it appears that the issues that Yannetti alluded to will not be discussed in open court. There was a lengthy discussion at sidebar. When that ended, the judge called for the jury candidates, and they are walking in now. So we apparently will not know what the serious issue was.
And then after that point, you
In any event, oh my
put
gosh,
Chad
Sean.
into handcuffs, right?
Yes.
Put him in the back of your car.
Yes.
And that was the video that we observed with Mr. Wixom, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you recall Mr. Daybell on the video that you looked at with Mr. Wixom, where Mr. Daybell mentions, I don't know what they're charging me with? Do you record him saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also recall him, saying to Emma, cooperate as much as you feel. Remember Emma saying that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
At what point during that process was Mr. Daybell advised that they found a body on his property?
Right prior to this clip right here.
Okay. And at the point that he was having a discussion with his daughter, Emma, at that point, he didn't know what he was being charged with, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Nobody told him what he was being charged with, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
But it's a pretty serious allegation if you get put in a set of handcuffs and put behind a van, and then suddenly they say, we found a body on your property, right?
Could you repeat the question?
That's a pretty serious allegation.
Yes.
In your traffic experience, that's not something that happens every day, right?
Right.
So at that point, Mr. Daybell is put in the back of the car, Chad's put in the back of the car, and Emma was allowed to talk with him, right?
Correct.
So we don't know what was going on in Mr. Daybell's mind, do we?
I don't.
Right. And we don't know what he's thinking, right?
Right.
But we do know that he's been told, guess what? They found a body on your property, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you're in handcuffs,
Okay.
right?
Correct.
And then Mr. Daybell says, we're going to make it through this, right?
Yes, sir.
And he's talking to his daughter about financial, where he can come up with money, credit cards, business accounts that he has, things like that, correct?
They were discussing those.
Right. So the purpose of discussing that, we don't know whether he was doing that to try to figure out a way if he could post bond on a release after he's being accused of this, right?
I don't know that.
You don't know that, right? We don't know what the reason for him trying to get his financials in order, right?
Right.
Now,
Hello.
I want to go back to the driveway. And originally, Chad was parked in a driveway from the south side. There's a driveway that comes in through the south, right?
Yeah, southeast of the residence.
Southeast of the residence. A long driveway that gets right into the middle of what I would call the backyard, the lawn area of the yard, right?
Correct.
Okay, now that's where he originally was parked, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that parked in that location gives you the best view of the fire pit and the pond?
I don't know about the pond because there was a shed there, but the fire pit.
Clearly the fire pit, right?
Correct.
And you don't know about the pond because the pond is off back on a portion of the property set back a little further, right?
Correct.
And it's a distance to see it, correct? That'd be fair, wouldn't it? Fair?
Distance is pretty relative, I guess.
Okay. Well, how far from where Mr. Daybell was parked to looking at the tree where they found JJ's remains?
I couldn't testify to an exact distance.
All right, fair enough. It's a distance, though. This isn't his backyard, right?
You could see it easily.
Okay, you could see it easily from that location, where he was.
Distance-wise, that amount of distance.
Okay, but the remains of both of these children were found in the pasture area, right?
Yes.
So if we say what I'm talking about, the backyard, would you agree with me that the backyard is where this driveway is and where the lawn is? That would be really the backyard. Would you agree with that?
That's landscaped as grass, yes.
Right, okay. And then beyond a fence is the fire pit, and then further down off in the far, what would be the northeast corner, is a tree with a pond back some ways away from the house, right?
To the north of the fire pit.
Right. So this is what I'm struggling with. This is where I'm having some difficulty. If you have such a good view of the fire pit and the pond with the tree where JJ was found, if your purpose is to observe and see what's going on for some nefarious reason, why would he move?
I believe he was advised to, so they could get crime scene stuff in and out of that driveway.
Okay, so he was told he had to get out of there.
I believe so.
Okay, do you know who told him that?
I don't.
Okay. So then he drives out and goes in front of the house, in the driveway.
Correct.
There's no other place to go. He has to go in the driveway, right?
If he wants to remain at the house, yes.
Right. And it's your testimony that he was looking around a little bit at that point, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, he wasn't emotional at that point, right?
I didn't have a good vantage point to determine that.
He didn't have a look of fear on his face at that point, is that right?
Not that I could see.
Okay. He didn't have a look of nervousness or tension or anything like that, did he?
I believe that he did.
You believe he did? Yes. Are you basing that on him turning his head and looking around?
Multiple times.
Okay, how many times is multiple?
There was 4 or 5, and then him exiting the vehicle.
Okay. So if someone is on your property and there are 30 police officers digging around on your property, you don't think someone would be curious about what's going on your property?
That's why I said that I believe he was nervous.
Okay, he was curious.
It could be both, yes.
Oh, okay. But then he didn't run at that point, right?
No.
He went over to his daughter's, right?
Correct.
And he was there for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, right?
Correct.
And then we just saw the video. He got accelerated a little bit, 50 miles an hour in Salem Highway. And when he stopped, he was planning on going to see his lawyer, right?
I don't know that.
Okay. Well, why would Lieutenant Ball say he's going to have to come to you? Was it
Calls for speculation, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Lieutenant Ball said to him, your lawyer's going to have to come to you, right?
Something along those lines, yes.
So there was at least a discussion about going to see the lawyer, right?
I don't know that.
Okay. You just think that was a statement Lieutenant Ball would just throw out there?
Judge, this has been asked and answered. It's a pure speculation. The witness doesn't know.
I'll move on, Judge.
Well, again, I'd like to be allowed a chance to rule on that, and it is sustained as asked and answered. So do move on, Mr. Pryor.
Okay. Now, after you put Chad in the back of the car and what we talked about with Emma, talking about the finances, and there was a time when Emma made a comment that I can tell by your expression that you didn't know what was going on out there, something to that effect. You remember hearing that?
Yes.
Okay, and you saw Chad's eyes when they talked about the body and his expression. So he had a reaction to that surprise. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't see that.
Okay. But obviously we have the video and we can make our own determination at some point, right?
Sure.
What the reaction was when he's told about a body that was being found. Okay. So then subsequent to that time, after Emma left, if you look at the outside camera of the premises, Chad, at one point, you talked about this, looked back, right? And you said that was towards the fire pit, right?
There were multiple times that he looked back towards that area, yes.
But if he was looking back, if you look at the position of the car, isn't it true that he was actually looking back at his daughter walking away and Officer Dave Hope behind the vehicle?
I don't know.
You don't know what he was looking at?
No, I don't know where Emma was at. She lives in front of the vehicle, so I don't know why she would be behind it.
Okay, and then the video speaks for itself, though, as to what exactly Chad was looking at, right?
It shows what direction he was looking at.
Okay, on the outside body, the outside cam of
says,
your vehicle,
okay.
right?
Okay.
In the front? I don't know what outside cam you're talking
The
about.
camera that was recording the encounter from the outside of your vehicle.
My body cam?
No, there were two cameras there.
Front car camera?
Front car camera, and then there was the one inside the car as well, right?
Correct.
Okay. But the cameras will speak to themselves as to where Chad was looking, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be mistaken, but I thought you previously testified that by looking straight out the window, the way Chad's vehicle was positioned, that looking straight out the driver's or the passenger side window or the window he was in would be right directly at the fire pit. Isn't that what you testified to?
His residence.
Okay. So you're telling me that by looking behind or back, he's looking away from his residence. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So again, what time did you drop Chad off at the jail?
I believe it was approximately 12:45.
Okay. And I just need to clarify something else. How have you been on that property before?
Prior to that day?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. But you saw cadaver dogs there on that day?
Yes.
Okay. And again, what time did you get back from after you dropped Chad off?
Back to the residence approximately 13:30, 1:30.
And for those of us who aren't in the military,
Sorry.
that'd be 1:30, right?
Approximately 1:30 p.m.
Okay. I can do that math, I think. And then you were there until what time at night?
I don't recall the exact time until we decided to
Okay.
convene till the next day.
And your primary goal at that point was excavation, is that right?
After I had returned, they reassigned me to help with the property.
Okay. And what role specifically? Were you at the fire pit or were you at the tree back behind the pasture there?
Primarily the fire pit area.
Okay. And do you recall who was with you at the fire pit?
There were multiple people.
When you say multiple, how many are we talking about?
I don't even want to estimate.
That many?
There was people coming and going.
Oh, okay.
So I don't recall who was there and when.
And they were handing off the shovels and the tools used to do that?
Not necessarily handing them off, maybe expanding areas to look at and sift through.
And at one time, how many people would you say were digging around the fire pit with you?
I don't want to testify to that. I don't know.
You don't want to testify or you don't
I don't know. I don't know for sure how many.
Was it more than 2?
Yes.
Was it more than 4?
Yes.
Was it more than 8?
I don't know.
Okay. And were you using just shovels?
No, they had sifters, hand tools, shovels.
So shovels, sifters, hand tools, anything else, or is that it?
Not that I can recall.
Other than digging in the dirt in the fire pit, was there any other obstruction in the fire pit that you recall having difficulty with?
Repeat that question.
Any difficulty in digging in the soil when you were at the fire pit?
Where we found Tylee's remains.
Yes, where Tylee's remains were found.
Just how careful we wanted to be.
Okay. So there were no boards, there were no obstructions, there were no rocks or anything like that. It was soil that you had to dig through. Is that fair?
There was some clumps of rock or hard.
Yeah, but nothing else, just small clumps.
Not that I recall.
Okay. And were you there primarily for a significant amount of the time of the excavation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, I wish we could force them to edit that out.
And Judge, I think that's all I have. I think that's all I have at this point.
All right. If we could have the published exhibit removed from the screen there, Mr. Pryor. Did we note on the record the time frame stamped when that stopped? We may not have.
109, 103, it looks like, Judge.
Okay.
The minute 3 looks like when it was stopped, is what I look like I have, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. All right. I'll let counsel return then, and we'll have redirect Mr. Wixom.
Redirect. Oh gosh, it'd be hard to be in there. I'd be spitting spitballs at him and stuff. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. Oh, now I'm covering the attorney now that he's back. Hold on, let me move. Let me move myself on over here. Now that let's put Lucy right over.
Detective Wheeler, you were asked several questions by Mr. Pryor about, in your experience, different reactions that people have in terms of levels of nervousness.
Yes.
And he asked you a question about whether or not someone might typically get nervous with a simple traffic stop. Correct. Answer that. Can you just explain, is that your common experience as a law enforcement?
Yes, I think that most people do get a little nervous when they get stopped by police.
Yeah. In your experience, when someone's about to have a serious crime such as bodies on their property found, would they normally get nervous?
I would assume yes.
Would they be curious and looking back at the property where the bodies were buried?
Yes.
So if they...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you just speak more directly?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You
Yep.
kind of moved over and we're
Sorry.
not getting your signal.
In your experience, Detective Wheeler, if someone is about to be discovered in a crime, about to be caught in a crime, have you ever experienced someone just acknowledging that and just surrendering because they know they're caught?
It is common for suspects when confronted with possibly getting caught to try to distance themselves from whatever they're getting.
Let me ask you a different way. So, have you ever experienced a situation where evidence was being found immediately and the reaction of the suspect was just to accept it and not resist or argue or react in any way? Judge, this... Oh.
Overruled.
Go ahead now.
Will you repeat that question?
Have you ever, in your experience as a law enforcement officer, ever been in a situation where evidence was about to be discovered that incriminated the suspect and they just reacted calmly without any nervousness and just basically acquiesced?
Very few times.
But it has happened?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Pryor asked a question about when Mr. Daybell was looking back at the property and he was looking curiously. Do you remember that question?
Correct.
Yeah. Would you say that another reason why someone might be curious about all these law enforcement digging on your property could be that you were aware they're about to find bodies that you knew were buried on your property? Did that cause curiosity?
Yes.
Mr. Pryor asked you a question about the speed in the roadway in front of Mr. Daybell's property. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And again, what was the speed on that road?
50 miles an hour.
I think you testified that it may not be abnormal for someone living on that street to drive out into the street and then quickly accelerate to 50 miles an hour or more.
Correct.
Yeah. Would you disagree that someone who believed that bodies that were buried on his property might be a reason, in addition to that, why they might quickly get on the roadway and drive away quickly and accelerate like you've talked about?
Yes.
There's been some discussion as well. There's some questions from Mr. Pryor about the fire pit. And I just want to flesh that out a bit. You testified earlier that you were present when Tylee's remains were recovered.
Yes.
And you participated in that.
Yes.
We've talked about the fire pit. Are you familiar with what's been called a pet cemetery on that property?
Yes.
Overruled.
Can you explain to the jury, were any of Tylee's remains found in the pet cemetery?
So when I became involved, I don't know what the team had designated as cemetery and fire pit. So I can't testify to where exactly they designated those points, but they were in that area that I assisted.
Did you become familiar with, at least generally, where the team was, what they were calling was the pet cemetery?
Sustained.
Did you receive any knowledge based upon what the team effort was, what had been designated by law enforcement there as what they were going to call pet cemetery?
Mr. Rickson.
Because I'm asking based on his knowledge simply if he knew what law enforcement designated as that area.
Mr. Pryor, please into the microphone.
And in response to that, that knowledge would only be obtained through hearsay. Renew my objection, Your Honor.
What would be the exception, Mr. Wixom?
Judge, I'm not offering to prove it for the truth of the matter as to where the pet cemetery was. I'm simply asking this witness if he knew that area, generally speaking, as they were conducting their investigation for the remains, the area that they were calling that. That's all.
Judge, and it's absolutely being asked for the truth of the matter asserted. That's exactly why he's asking it.
The objection's overruled. I find it as an exception to the hearsay rule, and the officer can answer the question.
I was familiar with the area called the pet cemetery.
And where was the pet cemetery in relation to the fire pit?
It was to the west and to the side a little bit, not very far away.
So in your earlier testimony, when you talked about the direction that Mr. Daybell was looking in the back of your patrol car, do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
And I think you testified you used the term fire pit.
Yes.
And I just, be clear for the jury, was the pet cemetery in the same general direction as the fire pit where Mr. Daybell was looking?
Yes.
You were asked some questions about the use of shovels and tools in attempting to recover Tylee's remains.
Yes.
Could you explain a little bit more to the jury what kind of cautions and efforts were made to uncover those remains?
The majority of what I did, I was on my hands and knees with brushes and little hand tools, removing portions of dirt away from the mass that we had found.
Without being too graphic, when you were removing those portions of dirt, did you personally find any portion of her remains?
Yes.
Can you describe those remains that you found?
Judge, I'm going to object.
Basis?
He doesn't have the knowledge to identify remains, Judge. I haven't heard anything foundation-wise to allow him to make that kind of an assessment.
Well, on the objection, Mr. Wixom, he can testify to what he found. I don't know that there's enough foundation to accurately identify who was found.
Okay. Detective Wheeler, did you find what you believe to be human remains?
Yes.
Can you be specific about what you were finding?
We found a portion of a skull and started to uncover that. Then there was flesh and other bones in a bucket, melted.
That's awful. Ugh.
And at the time that the search was being conducted, were you aware of the names of the people whose remains they were looking for?
Yes.
What were those names?
JJ and Tylee.
At any point in time, besides the remains of Tylee and the remains of JJ, were any other human remains found on the property?
No.
So going back to the method and the manner that you used to recover these remains, you said, I think you said, you used a brush at points.
Brushes and hand tools.
Why did you use those specific types of tools?
To try to keep what we were uncovering together without falling apart.
Not to be oversimplistic, but why is that important in this kind of a recovery in the ground of remains? Why do you need to do that?
I think it assists in identification purposes and evidence collecting so we don't lose anything.
Is it fair to say that that's a careful process?
Yes.
You were asked questions about passing off shovels or different shovels and tools. When you were engaged in this recovery of her remains and you observed other law enforcement, did you ever see anybody in any way haphazardly use those tools?
Judge, objection.
Candy Crush.
Mischaracterizing the question and the testimony.
Overruled.
I didn't see anybody using them. I don't know the word that you used. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Did you see anybody using them in any way that was haphazard or not cautious?
No.
So at no point when the remains were being recovered did you see any conduct by law enforcement that wasn't conscientious and careful?
No.
Of course they're going to be conscientious and careful. It's like they're doing this, like these are babies that they're, okay, I get it. Not babies.
I think you're a
Those are
17-year law enforcement veteran, is that correct?
18.
18, thank you. Are you familiar with the term consciousness of guilt?
Yes.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. We're going well beyond the scope of cross-examination.
I'd like a quick sidebar.
I'm so mad at Chad Daybell. And every time they talk about the details of the kids, it makes me mad all over again. His stupid laptop.
All right, thank you, counsel. After the sidebar, the court is sustaining the objection, and I'll move to strike that last question. So, Mr. Wixom, if you could ask a different question, please.
Thank you. Detective Wheeler, if someone gets in a car and flees quickly or appears to, what can that be indicative of?
Judge, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Could be that they have knowledge that something is going to be found or some sort of guilt.
Would that go back to that term, consciousness of guilt?
Judge, can we approach? Sidebar, please.
I'm trying not to be annoyed with the defense attorney because he has a big job and he's doing it by himself. And didn't he try to quit and they wouldn't let him? So, but
The court is again striking that last question. Mr. Wixom, if you'd move on to another question, please.
Certainly. Just a last couple of questions. Can you explain again the timing of when Mr. Daybell had left the property and as to when you found out that JJ's remains had been found?
Later, I had discovered that it was simultaneously, meaning as Chad was leaving, detectives were coming around the house and saw him leaving and advised me to stop him.
Judge, I'm going to move to strike its hearsay.
Response, Mr. Wixom.
Your Honor, I can re-ask the question.
Very well.
Yep. When you had stopped Mr. Daybell and had him get out of the car and come back to the back, you indicated that that's when he was met by the 4 or 5 officers, including Lieutenant Ball. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
And we just saw the video where the first thing Lieutenant Ball said was, "We found JJ's remains."
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
That happened how long after Mr. Daybell had gotten his car and drove away?
Just prior.
Moments, seconds? What's your best recollection?
I wasn't back there, so I don't know the exact time they located him. But
I'm asking the statement from Lieutenant Ball to Chad.
Right.
That timing. How long was that statement made to him? How much earlier had he driven away?
Well, just within minutes.
And when you were there helping with Kylie's remains, I think you testified earlier that you weren't directly involved with the recovery of JJ's remains.
Correct.
But you were on scene and you made observations about that?
Yes.
Are you aware of whether or not, pursuant to that search warrant or the way the search was conducted, was law enforcement looking inside the house for remains?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I can't testify to that.
The whole time were you there, did you see any law enforcement going inside the house?
Just at the beginning when they made contact.
And then after that, did they all go outside?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as you are aware, all of the search was happening outside on the property?
Yes.
Is there any question that you have as to the direction that Chad was looking on your patrol cam when he looks back over his right shoulder? What direction was he looking?
Judge, that's a compound question, and he's asking an affirmation from this witness. I'm going to object.
Well, on the compound, it's sustained.
What direction was Chad looking when he was looking over his right shoulder in the patrol cam?
In the direction of the fire pit and pet cemetery.
You were asked about this several times by Mr. Pryor. Is there any question that, regardless of what else he may have been able to see or look at, that general direction was right at the pet cemetery?
Judge, this has been asked and answered by counsel. Thank you.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right.
Judge, there were some issues that were brought up. I'd like the opportunity.
In limited scope, all out, Mr.
Thank you,
Pryor.
Your Honor.
Lucy's not impressed.
Now, officer, I heard an interesting comment from you. As you were testifying, you made a comment that I subsequently learned. Did you talk to anybody about your testimony at the break in this case?
No.
You didn't talk to any other law enforcement?
No.
So when you said that you subsequently learned, when did that knowledge come to you?
What are you referencing?
I'm referencing the fact that you subsequently, now I forgot what the context of that was. We're going to move on, Judge. And it may come to me.
Through the portal.
I want to clarify a couple of things. When you say that Mr. Daybell left when he learned about finding remains on his property, was that when he was parked in the driveway?
In his residence?
Yeah.
When he left Emma's residence in his vehicle, shortly after I learned that JJ's body was found.
Okay, so and that's what I'm trying to clarify a little bit. So Mr. Daybell was parked in the driveway, then he went over to Emma's residence, and it's unclear, and I understand that we don't know whether he was there for an hour and a half or for 2 hours in Emma's residence, right?
Yes.
And at that point, he didn't know anything about anything being on the property that has been located by law enforcement at that point. Would you agree with that?
I don't know what he could see from there.
Okay, but he wasn't told by anybody that they found anything at that point, correct?
Not by me.
Right, or anybody else.
Not that I know of.
Right. And then when he gets in his vehicle and he drives away, the prosecutor eloquently used the words fleeing, but we don't know what he was thinking at that point, do we?
No.
And only after he was stopped by you and those other several officers and notified what was going on, that's when he learned about it, after he drove away and after he had driven down the road, correct?
I can't testify to what he knew.
Okay, but he was told about the remains at that point. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
All right. I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right. That will conclude the testimony of this witness. Is this witness going to be recalled by either side?
I may recall him, Judge.
We may call him later by the state, Your Honor, but he can be excused for today as far as the state is concerned.
All right. Well, Detective Wheeler, if you are to be recalled, again, you're still under an exclusionary order, so you are not permitted to view any of the footage of the trial, the testimony that's being live streamed, or discuss your testimony further until you return to testify. Otherwise, you may be excluded from testifying. So please keep that admonishment in mind in between now and when you may be recalled in the case. With that, then that will conclude this Detective Wheeler's testimony. And let me inquire from the state. Do you have another witness we can get started with before we take lunch?
No, we could begin with Lieutenant Joe Powell.
Let's go ahead and get a next witness started and try to go till noon before we take lunch, please. All right. Again, there's an exclusionary rule in this case. Lieutenant Powell, have you been observing any of the trial testimony in this case since it started?
No.
All right. Have you discussed anyone else's testimony that's come before you in the trial?
No.
All right. With that in mind, Mr. Wixom, then you can go ahead and inquire on direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Lieutenant Powell.
Good morning.
Will you please state and spell your full name for the record?
Joseph Powell, Powell.
And where do you work?
Vermont County Sheriff's Office.
What is your, you're lieutenant, correct?
Yes.
How long have you worked for that office?
22 years.
Have you ever worked as a law enforcement officer anywhere else?
No.
How long have you been a detective?
I was a detective for about 4.5 years.
What was your prior rank?
Patrol.
And have you been post-certified?
Yes.
Could you briefly explain to the jury what that involves?
You go to the post academy. When I went through it was 12 weeks of training.
Have you ever received any additional training or certification?
Yes. They require 40 hours every 2 years. So the continuing education.
So over the last 22 years, roughly 11 times you've had to get 40 hours of training.
That just went into effect, but yeah, there's lots of hours of training.
Did you get any specific training as a detective?
Yes.
And did you work as a detective prior to becoming a lieutenant?
Yes.
How many years?
About 4.5 years.
I want to, well, first let me ask this. As a lieutenant, is it ever part of your role to become involved with unattended deaths?
Yes.
Could you just explain to the jury, what does that term mean, an unattended death?
There's nobody around when they wake up, they discover somebody's dead. There's nobody around to know what happened.
So why would law enforcement want to be involved and just look at that situation?
To see if there's any foul play.
I want to draw your attention back to nearly 5 years ago, back in October of 2019. Do you recall ever being involved in an unattended death of Tammy Daybell?
Yes, I was notified of her unattended death.
And who were you notified by?
Detective Mattingly.
Why did he notify you?
When there's an unattended death in Fremont, they notify the lieutenant, the chief deputy, and the sheriff.
Okay. What's the purpose to have your subordinates notify you about that?
So if
Thank you, AN.
if there's
Thank
any
you, thank
questions
you.
or they need help with the part of the investigation, and so the sheriff knows what's going on in the county.
Excuse me. What was the date of that? Do you recall?
October 19th, 2019.
At that point in time, what was your understanding as what the investigation had determined about Tammy's death?
Natural causes.
Shortly after the 19th of October, were you ever contacted by law enforcement from Gilbert, Arizona?
Yes.
And what date did that happen?
October 31st, 2019.
How were you contacted? Was it in person, by phone, email?
I was contacted by phone.
And what did you learn from that contact?
They was inquiring about Tammy Daybell's death, asked if they could get a copy of the report, and asking for assistance.
Okay. Do you recall, did they say anything else about Tammy Daybell's death and the reason for their request for the report?
Judge, calls for hearsay.
Yes, sustained.
After the phone call, what did you decide to do in regard to Tammy Daybell's death?
I sent him a copy of the report.
And what about you personally? Did you take any steps to look at the case?
Yes, I reviewed the report, and then later on ended up getting her medical records.
Okay. Well, we'll pause here. So Gilbert, Arizona contacted you about Tammy Daybell's death.
Yes.
Did they request any other assistance or help with anything else?
Yes, they asked to
Judge,
locate.
objection, calls for hearsay.
Said the request isn't offered for the truth.
Overruled. You can answer.
They asked if we could help locate a 2018 gray Jeep Wrangler with Texas plates.
did you get any information as to why you were seeking to locate that?
They believed that it was in Fremont County.
Did they tell you why they wanted to find the Jeep?
It was involved in an attempted shooting.
Did they give any names in terms of that were in connection with that shooting?
Yes, Alex Cox, Lori Vallow, and they believe they had ties to Chad Daybell.
Did the name Charles Vallow ever come up?
I don't recall for sure.
At that time?
At that time.
Right. So they asked you to look for a Jeep. What did you do next?
Drove out, they gave me the address of 202 North, 1900 East. It's in Fremont County. I drove out to that residence.
Did you determine who lived there?
Chad Daybell.
Real quick, I paused. I mute my microphone when my air comes on because I don't know how loud it is. I put the little muff thing on there. Anyway, so there's an update from the courtroom that says 3 people have had, out of the 100, I think it's like 100-ish of the jury pool that they brought in today. 3 people have had interactions with witnesses. More than half indicate that they've heard or talked about the case. This is not an immediate disqualifier because the case is so high profile.
Did you find the Jeep?
No.
Do you recall what date it was that you drove out there?
October 31st, 2019.
What did you do after you determined that the Jeep wasn't there?
I notified Gilbert that we couldn't locate the Jeep there, and if they needed more assistance to let us know.
And did you in fact get more assistance from them?
Yes, the next day, November 1st, I received an email asking me to check a couple more addresses.
And did you do that?
One was a P.O. box in Sugar City, so I knew it was a post office, so I did not go there. But the next one was 565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg, and yes, we did go there.
And what did you find there?
We surveilled the residence, but never located the Jeep.
When you say surveilled, can you explain that a little bit more to the jury? What your process is?
We sat a ways away from the residence and watched it and watched for vehicles coming and going, people coming and going.
And did you observe anybody coming and going from that residence?
Yes.
Who did you observe?
Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow.
Prior to engaging in that surveillance, had you done anything to identify what Chad Daybell looked like?
Yes.
How did you do that?
Driver's license photo.
Did you do the same for Lori Vallow?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
Gilbert, Arizona had sent a picture.
Did you eventually, let me withdraw that. Do you recognize Chad Daybell in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And what is he wearing?
Blue shirt and a yellow tie.
Where is he seated?
At the defendant's table.
So you said at some point in your surveillance, you saw Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. Is that correct?
Yes.
Explain to the jury when you first saw them.
First, we seen Chad Daybell leave the 565 Pioneer Road, and we surveilled him out to 202 North, 1900 East.
And Judge, if I could have some foundation as to time, date, place, year.
All right, Mr. Wixom, if you'd like to re-ask with more detail.
Sure. Lieutenant Powell, what date was it that we're talking about that you were surveilling and first see Chad and Lori?
November 1st, 2019.
And these addresses that you were surveilling, where were they again?
One's in Madison County, and one would be in Fremont County in Idaho.
And which address was it that you first saw Chad and Lori at?
565 Pioneer Road in Madison County.
And what was the date that you saw them?
November 1st, 2019.
Recall what time of day that was?
My ear's off. Do you hear like a buzz? Or is that my headphones?
I don't recall time.
Do you recall morning, afternoon, evening?
Morning.
Okay, thank you. So, forgive me, I forgot where I left off, but what was it that you first saw them doing?
On the way down to surveil that, we also contacted Rexburg PD, so they was involved with the surveillance.
Why did you do that?
Because we was going to be in their jurisdiction.
Is that normal for law enforcement?
Yes.
Just to touch base with each other?
Yes.
Okay. Did they come and assist at all?
Yes, they did.
So you made that contact, then what did you do?
We followed Chad Daybell from the 565 Pioneer Road to 202 North, 1900 East.
And what did they do at that location?
He went in the residence for a little while and then left. We surveilled him to Mountain America Credit Union in Rexburg, Idaho. And then we lost him after that, so we went back and surveilled the house again, the apartment.
Back that same day or a different day?
Same day.
About what time was it that you went back?
I don't know exact time. I'm guessing late morning.
What'd you see next?
We seen Lori Vallow leave and go to Sugar City to the post office.
Anything else?
After there, she goes to Walgreens, and then after Walgreens, back to the apartment.
What did they do at the apartment?
Then they both go from the apartment to Idaho Falls. We surveil them to Mountain America, or the Mountain Credit Union in Idaho Falls, and then the Hobby Lobby, and then the Cafe Rio.
Excuse me. What did you observe them doing, if anything, at Hobby Lobby?
Holding hands as they was walking in the store.
And let me ask, did you take any photographs of that?
I did not.
Did any other law enforcement take photographs of that?
Yes.
Do you recall who it was?
I don't recall.
Did you later see the photographs?
Yes.
Do you believe that if shown, you might be able to recognize those?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer what's been marked as the state's Exhibit 36B. Got 2 copies for the court.
Judge, I'm going to voice an objection for relevance. I'm not seeing the relevance here.
All right, if I could view the exhibit, please, before I rule on the objection. Objection's been made, Mr. Wixom, as to relevance.
Judge, at this point, it goes to what's in the photo we believe shows the nature of the relationship, which isn't just relevant for this witness's testimony, but for the theory of the case overall. It helps to show the relationship between the two.
All right, I've considered the objection, given the nature of the conspiracy charges in the case, find there is relevance under 403, and will therefore overrule the objection, and the Exhibit 36B may be admitted.
Thank you. May I ask to have those handed to the witness, please? And Lieutenant Powell, even though these have been admitted, just to give context, what do you see in front of you?
Chad and Lori walking into Hobby Lobby holding hands.
Mr. Wixom, I want to be clear. You're saying these. Is there one exhibit or more than one?
I apologize. I handed 2 up to you. It's just one exhibit. 34 or 36B, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet. They're holding hands?
Yes.
So even though you didn't take this picture, do you believe that's an accurate reflection of what they were doing?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would request permission to publish this to the jury.
You may.
So, Lieutenant Powell, if you'll please look at the monitor up there, this photo. Since we didn't all have your vantage point, will you just explain again what they were doing to the jury?
They're holding hands walking in the Hobby Lobby.
Okay. Were they holding hands the whole time walking in?
Yes.
Now, did you go inside the Hobby Lobby?
No, we did not.
What did you do while they were inside the Hobby Lobby?
Waited outside.
And how long do you believe they were in there?
I don't recall.
Okay. But did you wait long enough to see them exit the Hobby Lobby?
Yes.
And what did they do after that?
Got in their vehicle and drove over to Cafe Rio.
What happened then? Did they go inside?
Yes.
Did you happen to go inside?
Yes, myself and Chief Deputy Gardner went inside.
Did you observe them in there?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer State's Exhibit 35, which is already been stipulated to be admitted, but 2 copies for the court.
All right, I understand there is no objection then based on what Mr. Wixom has proffered on Exhibit 35. Is that correct, Mr. Pryor?
It is, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Exhibit 35 is admitted.
Here. Your Honor, may I have permission to publish it?
You may.
And before I do so, could I just confirm, Judge, was that last exhibit admitted? Did I move for admission?
It was. 36B is admitted.
Thank you. What is that a picture of, Lieutenant Powell?
Chad and Lori eating at Cafe Rio.
And did you observe anything else about their behavior or conduct together while they were at Cafe Rio?
No.
What happened after they left at Cafe Rio?
We ended the surveillance.
Why did you end it there?
The time of night and prior engagements people had.
Okay. Your Honor, it would now be an appropriate time to stop my direct examination, considering the hour.
Yes, let's go ahead and take our lunch break at this time. We will try to do it in an hour, back on at 1, but we'll allow sufficient time for the jurors also to have their lunch and take the break necessary. So we'll come back on after the break.
All rise, please.
I'm having. Do you still hear the buzz? All right, let's get through their lunch. Coming back.
All right, Mr. Bailiff, if you could please have the jurors return to the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
All right, real quick. I don't know what's. Every time, see, I recorded the podcast last night, and every time I record the podcast, then I go to stream, all of my settings are weird because I have to change the settings for the podcast. I don't know. Okay, so the latest, where'd they say? Where did it say? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Well, dang, I just had the update. Oh, there it is. There we go. 12 people indicated they've already formed a bias in the case. 25 people, roughly 25 people, raised their hand when asked if they've already formed an opinion of the case. So those are the two newest updates from him. My volume got low. I'm going to have to figure out how to be able to record the podcast without having to change all my settings.
On case CR 22211623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell.
That was
Lieutenant
for
Powell
Karen
was
Reed.
previously placed under oath. I'll note the parties are all present after the lunch recess, as well as the jurors are all present and properly seated, and the defendant and counsel. Mr. Wixom, I believe you were still in direct examination.
I was, Your Honor.
You can continue with your direct.
Thank you. Lieutenant Powell, I think we left off at your surveillance at Cafe Rio.
Yes.
I want to take you back now to the Gilbert phone call about Tammy Daybell's death.
Yes.
With respect to whatever was discussed there, did that cause you to feel like you needed to investigate Tammy's death?
Yes.
Why?
Because of the ties with Lori and Alex Cox and the attempted shooting, and then reviewing the report.
Which
about
report?
100.
The one the deputy wrote from first on scene.
What about that report caused you to feel like you should reinvestigate?
Chad said that Tammy didn't.
Into the microphone, please, Mr. Pryor.
Judge, I'm going to object. There hasn't been proper foundation. I don't know what report he's talking about. Who did it? What did it? When?
I'll sustain that in terms of general reference to a report.
Thank you, Your Honor. And to be clear for counsel, this is the stipulated Exhibit 70 that was stipulated to. It's the report.
Exhibit what, counsel?
70. Well, it's the stipulation number 70. It's that report.
Mr. Wixom, has that been admitted formally in the trial yet?
I intend to, but I haven't yet. I can stop now and do so.
I guess that'll make the most sense since we've referenced the exhibit. I want to make sure it comes in before it's referred to.
Certainly, Your Honor. Thank you. May I have just a second, please?
You may.
And Judge, that would have saved an objection if I had known.
I understand.
Let me skip my little
Your Honor.
5-second fast forward.
On the stipulation, as I recall, the state's proposed exhibit number is 418.
418.
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you please mark the exhibit then as 418 that you propose to offer?
Certainly, Your Honor. This is Officer Powell's report, not Officer Greenell's report. This is what events he gave me. So, you.
I'm surprised they didn't do a change of venue for Karen Reed, honestly. Fast forward.
Thank you.
It apparently 18.
No, Judge.
All right. Exhibit 418 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I ask to have that handed to the witness, please?
Yes.
They chose 4 jurors yesterday, I think, out of like 100.
Lieutenant Powell, you were telling the jury what were some of the reasons that caused you to have concern to reopen the Tammy Daybell death investigation?
Chad tells Deputy Greenhall that Tamara didn't have any serious medical conditions.
Let me stop you there. If you're going to refer to the exhibit to refresh a recollection, I'm going to ask the court permission to allow you to do so, but you probably shouldn't read from that.
Oh,
is that, Your Honor, may he have permission to refresh the exhibit?
Well, it's actually an admitted exhibit, so.
Well, if he's got permission to read it, then we'll continue on.
You can ask your question, but once it's an admitted exhibit, the jury will have that.
Thank you. So go ahead then, Lieutenant Powell.
He tells Deputy Greenhall that Tamara don't have any serious medical conditions, and that she don't go to the doctor often.
Anything else in there that caused you to decide to investigate further?
Last time she was at the doctor was 2 months ago for an arm injury.
Okay. So upon reviewing that, considering the other information, what steps did you take to then investigate Tammy's death?
Ran a controlled substance, it's called PMP, prescription monitoring program, where you can run a name and they'll tell you if they're on any controlled substance, medications that are controlled.
Is that a law enforcement program?
Yes.
Okay. What did you find from that?
She was prescribed tramadol.
Okay. Anything else from that report?
Not from that report, no.
So what did you do next?
Got with the prosecutor and got a search warrant for Walmart pharmacy.
Why Walmart pharmacy?
That's where it was prescribed to, picked up.
What did you find as a result of the search warrant from Walmart pharmacy?
She was prescribed fluoxetine and tramadol.
And what did you do next?
She was prescribed fluoxetine from Seasons Medical and tramadol from Teton Medical. So I got search warrants for those 2 medical records.
Did you get records from both those entities?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You know, at this time, the state would offer its proposed Exhibit 38 that likewise was stipulated to for admission, which for the record are the records of Teton Medical.
And Judge, for the record, my exhibit number 21 should mirror their exhibit number 38. If there is any differences, I'll move for mine as well. But my 21 was stipulated as well as their 38. So there is duplication there.
Okay. And to the extent it's the same exhibit, let's make sure it just gets admitted once, but what's now marked and offered as states 38, I'll have the defense review that and ask if there's any objection.
Hang on, one more. Thank you. Thank you.
As to propose 38, any objection from the defense?
No, Judge.
All right. Exhibit 38 has been offered and is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I have permission to publish Exhibit 38?
You may. The copy I've got, counsel, is essentially illegible on the second page.
Judge, if I could suggest...
Third page, I would say. It's actually 3 pages.
Judge, if I could suggest my 21, you might find that to be a little more legible, but counsel, if you would like to take a look.
Let me sidebar with counsel because there's a photocopy so light that it's illegible.
Rocky.
All right, counsel, I've reviewed the admitted exhibit. However, it's again not very legible in terms of how it was photocopied, but there is a better version of it that was likewise submitted by the defense. So upon suggestion in the sidebar, the court will permit a substitute exhibit. So what was previously admitted 38 will not be admitted, and we'll have that referenced by the defense exhibit, which is the same document in a more legible copy. So what is the exhibit number, Mr. Pryor, that would replace our exhibit 38?
Your Honor, Teton Medical Group records would be defense exhibit number 21. And
Okay.
Seasons Medical Records, which I think counsel's moving towards, it will be exhibit number 22. And my understanding, Judge, is that we've previously agreed that exhibit number 20 by stipulation is admitted as well, and I'll move for all three of those at this point.
Okay, the defense has moved then for those exhibits 21, 22, and 20. Mr. Wixom, any objection from the state?
No, we have no objection, Your Honor. We agree to the same exhibits, just with a more clear copy. Yes.
Okay, then those will be admitted. And to be clear then, for the record, exhibit 38 is no longer admitted as part of the record, being substituted by the more clear version. So you can proceed, Mr. Wixom. Just reference the exhibit number with those new defense numbers when you are referencing them with the witness, please.
Will be, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Real quick, there's another reporter that gave these, trying to keep us updated on all the Karen Reed. He says it's the other reporter said it was roughly 100. So this one says it's 84 is the actual number. So out of 84 people in the jury pool from today, 3 said they've had contact with witnesses, which we said. 58 have heard about the case, and 24 have formed an opinion. 37 of them said that serving on the trial would be substantial hardship. It's going to be a long jury selection.
mission to publish exhibit number 21.
Yes.
Lieutenant Powell, what is it that you see on the screen?
The medical records from Teton Medical Group.
And can we explain to the jury, in your role as a lieutenant in terms of helping subordinates deal with unattended deaths, is it typical for you to get medical records and look at them?
Yes.
And you're by no means a doctor, correct?
No.
But you do review them to see if you can discern anything about the subject's health?
Yes.
Okay. What did you see in this Teton medical record about Tammy Daybell's health?
The past medical history was just anxiety, depression, and anemia. Other than that, everything appeared to be normal.
Okay. So when you sought a warrant for these particular records, how many years time span did you ask for?
2 years.
Was this the only record that was returned?
Yes.
What's the date on that record?
9/6 of 2019.
Does that indicate anything to you about Tammy's health status?
She was healthy at the time that she was at that doctor.
What about the fact that this is the only record? Does that tell you anything about her health status?
It appears she's healthy.
Your Honor, may I now have permission to publish the exhibit number 22?
Yes.
Okay, so this is important because remember, they said that they originally said that she died of natural causes, and that's what they're going to try to prove. What Chad's attorney is trying to prove, that she died of natural causes. It wasn't him.
And please just refresh for the jury, who was the second provider that
her
you
medical stuff
sought records from under the warrant?
Seasons Medical.
And I want to call your attention to the screen again. What is that you see?
The medical records for Tammy from Seasons Medical.
And in fact, when you sought these records pursuant to a warrant, what time span did you look for?
2 years.
And were there any other records besides this?
No, there was not.
What's the date on this record?
10/6 of 2015.
What, if anything, did you discern from these records?
He was being seen for depression.
Anything else?
No.
What did that do how did that impact your decision how to go further to investigate in any way?
Yes.
In what way did it impact?
She appeared to be healthy, so I got with the prosecutors and got a warrant for exhumation.
Okay. Can you explain what the exhumation process is to the jury, please?
She was buried in Springfield, Utah, so had to get with the court in Utah, got a warrant to exhume her, and that dig her up and take her to have an autopsy done.
And that order was issued?
Yes, it was.
And did you attend that exhumation process?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may we approach at this time?
Yes.
that judge who, when they said, "Can we approach?" he was like, "No." Which one was that? With the red microphone, the sex therapist murder trial, Gareth Pursehouse and Amy Hardwick. When they said, there was one time when they were like, "Can we approach?" He was like, "No." He was sassy.
To the court what we believe is a stipulated state's exhibit 37A through 37H. We've got 2 copies for the court.
I love Mark the Shark. I need to text him. I haven't talked to him in a while. See how him and Mighty Heidi are doing.
And Judge, these were by stipulation of the parties as well as other photos that will be published at a later time by way of stipulation.
All right, I'll take a quick review of them.
Judge, for the record, my exhibits in that regard will be item number 23, 23A, 23B, 23A through D will be my corresponding, and if there's any that aren't presented.
Okay, once you get there, Mr. Pryor, I'll have you offer them individually so we keep track of the exhibits. Exhibits 37A through H have been offered, and I understand either by stipulation or no objection, the defense has no objection to these being admitted. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, exhibits 37A through H all individually are each admitted. And Mr. Wixom, you can continue.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I have permission to publish various parts of this exhibit?
Yes.
Thank you. Lieutenant Powell, I think we had left off with you explaining why you were going to do the exhumation. Could you please explain to the jury what's that process as far as law enforcement is concerned?
Go and observe and make sure that nothing was tampered with.
And what kinds of things do you look for tampering?
Any marks on the casket, and the cement vault and things like that.
And why do you look for tampering?
To make sure I can say that nothing was tampered with and to obscure the autopsy.
So is it safe to say that you were at the graveside when her body was literally pulled from the ground, or her casket was pulled from the ground?
Yes.
And you observed all that?
Yes.
Now, did you personally take photos of that process?
No.
But you were present the whole time?
Yes.
And you've seen the photos that were taken?
Yes.
And they've been admitted, but the photos, you'll be able to say if they were accurate depictions of what was happening?
Yes.
Now, if I may now publish?
Yes.
Lieutenant, can you please just explain to the jury, what are we looking at?
The backhoe getting ready to start digging the grave out.
Okay. And this is Ms. Daybell's grave?
Yes.
And where is this again?
Springfield, Utah.
Now I call your attention to what's been marked as 37B. What's that?
The backhoe digging the grave.
37C.
Them lifting the cement vault out of the grave.
37D.
The cement vault.
37E.
The lid taken off the cement vault in the casket.
37F.
The inside of the cement vault.
And I'll stop there. In the course of your observation of this part of the exhumation, did you see any tampering?
No.
What did you look at?
The edges, and then you've seen all the roses and stuff still on top of the casket.
Okay. Did you examine the casket as well?
Yes.
Did you see any indication of tampering there?
No.
And then once the coffin was removed from the vault, what happened with the coffin?
It was loaded and taken to the medical examiner's office in Utah.
And this 37 G, is that a picture of the loading of the coffin?
Yes.
Now, you said that coffin was taken to an ME, to a medical examiner?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ride in the hearse at that time?
No, I followed it.
Did the hearse and the coffin stay within your line of sight all the way to the MEs?
Yes.
And in fact, did you go inside when they put the casket in?
Yes.
Did you observe the autopsy?
Yes.
And so therefore, did you also observe the removal of Tammy's body from the casket?
Yes.
And what do we see here, Lieutenant?
Tammy Daybell's body.
Okay. Did you, at that point in time, look for potential tampering?
Yes.
Did you observe anything?
No.
And was Tammy's clothing eventually removed from her?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to view her body before the autopsy began?
Yes.
And did you see any signs of tampering at all?
No.
Lieutenant, once the exhumation was completed, did you do anything personally that furthered the investigation?
I assisted with the search warrant on January 3rd.
And what search warrant was that?
202 North, 1900 East at the Daybell residence.
And, excuse me, what was the purpose of that warrant?
They was looking for electronics and other things in regards to Tammy's.
And your role in that search?
I was there helping search, and when something was found, the FBI ERT team would come photograph it and process it.
And then how were you involved at that point?
After we was all done and the FBI had processed everything, they turned it over to myself and Detective Mattingly. We loaded them in our vehicles and transported it to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office.
Was that the end of your involvement?
Yes.
At some point, was this further investigation of Tammy's death turned over to someone else in the Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, the detectives.
And why was that?
Just I had other things they wanted me to be doing and wanted it turned over to detectives.
And to be clear, as a lieutenant, how many subordinates do you supervise?
Approximately 24. Oh, no, it'd be probably about 27.
And would that include patrol officers as well as detectives?
Yes.
Okay. Is that part of the reason why you as a lieutenant would then just assign the case to a detective?
Yes.
From that point forward, did you have any other involvement in Tammy's death investigation?
No.
Your Honor, may I have just a moment, please?
Yes.
No.
Turn back into the court. I see the marshal shaking his head yes.
Yes, we do have those.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Pryor, you can cross.
Thank you.
Once you're set up, bar with counsel before you start cross, just to
Sidebar. How the heck did I have more of a reaction than Chud did? He's a piece of crap, man. It's the only thing I like about this trial is that we can all agree that the defendant sucks. And there's no arguing over that.
to the
Come on
court
back, Judge.
Before the state concluded direct, we did have admitted, not actually given to the court, Exhibit 20, which I think is a death certificate, and we need to get that to the bailiff for entry into the court record. All right, thanks, counsel. And you can commence with your cross-examination then, Mr. Pryor.
So you've, officer, you've spent 22 years with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, is that right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pryor, but can you speak into the microphone, please?
And I've been warned about this, Judge. Sorry. You spent 22 years with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, is that right?
Yes.
And the last 4.5 years have been as a detective, is that correct?
I'm a lieutenant now.
I'm sorry, lieutenant. 4.5 years as a lieutenant?
No, about 7 years lieutenant. I was 4.5 years detective.
Okay, that's what I thought I said. And then 7 years as a lieutenant?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't get on the street and do patrol or anything like that, is that right?
I do cover shifts, yes.
Okay. And are you equipped with a camera in your automobile?
No.
Are you equipped with a body cam?
No.
That's not standard.
What happened? Why are we having problems? I I see spinning wheel. Can you see me now? What is that? I have no idea what's happening. Let me exit out of that. It's Chad. Let's see. I have no idea what's going on. I think it's back. Jessica for Justice, thank you, thank you. What is happening?